because I said the word a few times, all of my ads are about weddings, engagements, bridal things. One of those ads happened to be on my YouTube homepage for Ben Shapiro's sister. Her channel is Classically Abby. She's kind of been making the rounds in commentary circles because of her classically feminine approach to things. So for those of you who are kind of uninitiated, the best way I can describe classically feminine, at least in her interpretation, is it's like being a trad wife, but you're allowed to have hobbies. It's exciting. Given how I've responded to some of her other videos, particularly her one on modesty, I was like, I have to know. I have to know what the 10 things I need to know to be a wife are. Why would I go to the countless women in my life who are married? Why would I go to my own mother for advice when I can ask Ben Shapiro's sister what it means to be a wife? And I'm so excited. I'm so excited what she's going to tell me, because she's like the older sister and awful sorority president I never had, which is why I got all dressed up. But this does show my shoulders, which based on her modesty video means my fiance doesn't respect me anymore. That's one strike against me. But hopefully this video can like rectify that and guarantee that I have a happy marriage. I will say, as a disclaimer, it's entirely possible I'll agree with some of it. This is my raw reactions, so we're gonna see what I think. This is also my first like reaction video, so I don't know how this is gonna go, but we're gonna try it.
Hello, beautiful ladies, and welcome to today's
Abby.
video, where we're going to be talking.
Oh wait, I have to roleplay this. All right, Abby, like, oh my gosh, I know that you're married, you're totally engaged, but now I'm totally engaged. What should I do? How do you wife, Abby? All right.
10 things you should know before becoming a wife.
Awesome.
When I got
Exactly what
married,
need.
there were so many things people told me to look forward to, and they were totally right. Everything is so lovely about being married. But I also know that there were a few things that I wish that someone had told me before I got married, and I thought I would share with you guys some of those thoughts.
I will say, to her credit, it is really nice to like pass on wisdom to people. There's a dumb work term, but there's like the collective wisdom. It is important to contribute to that, and it's important to get as much feedback from as many people as possible in order to fully understand how something goes. That's fine. Whether or not we agree with those ideas, I appreciate the effort.
So let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is the first year of marriage. Now, everybody kind of tells you that you're still in the honeymoon phase during that first year of marriage, and it's true. But one of the things that I noticed is that pretty much on our 1-year anniversary, I turned to Jacob and I said, oh my gosh, did our marriage just get so much easier? Now, marriage isn't hard the first year, but what it is that it's just a lot of adjustments. And that can cause a little bit of friction. So when you're getting married, recognize that maybe the first year isn't going to just be daisies and roses all the time.
So that was the first tip, is basically you're going to adjust a lot to living with another person. And that's actually something that my fiance and I have talked about a lot, because we've talked about like, you know, whose routine are we going to kind of abide by, who's going to do dinner, who's going to do laundry and things like that. And I think at least to that point, finding what you enjoy doing as far as housekeeping goes, because at this point we all live on our own. We all do our own housekeeping. But the things you enjoy, like for me, I actually do enjoy doing laundry. I love folding fitted sheets. That's the thing I'm going to do. And we don't have to worry about who handles that. But there are other things that like maybe we both don't like doing something. And so that's not the worst piece of advice. I will give her credit for that. All right. Item 2.
The second thing that every woman should know before getting married is that your cleanliness level is going to be different than your husband's.
Okay. I will not tolerate that. I'm going to see what else she says. But if you are marrying someone who cannot keep themselves clean.
The thing for us is that I love when everything is in its place. I like when things are organized, when everything is put away. He doesn't like dust. So I don't like clutter, and he doesn't like dirt.
Okay, so she's not talking about like personal hygiene. She's talking about like the other kind of hygiene, like how the state of the house is. That's a little different, but like those aren't incompatible. Okay.
For me, that evens out pretty well. But what it does mean is that he doesn't really mind clutter. So if he comes home and he puts down something on a chair, it might just stay there for a while. And that took me a little bit of time to get used to, because I would say, why can't you just understand what bothers me? But at the same time, I don't really understand what bothers him. So be forgiving of each other and just recognize that you're going to want things to be clean in a different way than he is. And that's not a bad thing. You'll just even out and you guys will kind of take responsibility for different things around the house.
Okay, so the idea that you're supposed to be forgiving of your partner, yeah, I totally get that. Again, it's the whole, you're two different people coming together into one house. There's going to be some adjustments. I think this kind of fits in with the first point. I don't know, it doesn't feel like a whole point to make, you know? It's, in a lot of ways, you grow up in a house where people appreciate and strive for different levels of cleanliness. And it looks different for different people. So I don't necessarily think that this is like a worthwhile point to make, but you know, whatever.
Now, another funny thing, for example, is that...
Oh, another funny thing. Gosh.
My husband, and I've heard this is common, always puts his clothes next to the hamper. Not in it, next to it. And I always laugh about that. He did explain the reason to me, which is that we have two hampers and he never knows which one is whites and which one is colors. And sometimes I mix them up because I like to just sort them when I get down to the laundry room. But it's still like, just put it in the hamper. It'll be fine.
Okay, her laugh is so strange. Oh my gosh. But again, this is the kind of thing where if you just talk about it, and it sounds like they're clearly talking about it, which is good, but this is like... It seems so petty. I've not been married. I have not cohabitated with a partner. Label the hampers if it's that big of a problem. And if you sort it when you get down to the laundry room, don't worry about it. Just get one hamper and move on with your life. This is 3 steps. 3 steps of 10 things I'm supposed to know to become a wife, and I have learned nothing, Abby, nothing. You're not helping me.
The third thing is that...
My bad. This is the third thing.
Take the time before you're married to learn how to cook. If you don't know how to cook now, then maybe take some time and watch some YouTube videos or ask your mom and get some recipes under your belt. Now, not all wives cook. I can totally respect that. I just love cooking for my husband. I think it's a really nice thing to do. And I found that there are certain recipes that I'm really glad I knew before I got married because I can just throw them in the pot or throw them in the pan and I don't have to think really hard about it.
I knew this one was coming. I am honestly surprised it took 3 steps to get here. The thing about cooking for her spouse, she points out that she likes cooking for her husband and that's the thing that she enjoys doing. I'm not going to knock her for that. That is totally allowed. She's allowed to do that. I don't know, maybe it's because I've had to live on my own for a whole year at this point, and I think most people do. Cooking in general is a survivability thing. If you know how to cook for yourself, you are officially thrifty and you are thriving. So I think this is just a good rule in general. I don't know. I will say she at least pointed out that not all wives like to cook. Thanks, Abby.
My fourth piece of advice for women who are about to get married is be mindful of each other's space.
This is actually a really good tip. I am impressed. Yes, boundaries are important. You know, even in the biblical sense, you are made into one. You still gotta have boundaries. Boundaries are healthy. It's, I think, a healthy marriage if you can just every once in a while be like, hey, I need 30 minutes of just nothing. I know there are days where I get especially frustrated that it does help me to just not see anything, to just wallow and be sad, and in 20 minutes, I'm up and going again. Setting boundaries is important. Very nice. Thank you, Abby.
And at the beginning of your marriage, it's gonna feel like you wanna be together all the time, but if your partner needs a little bit of space, that's okay and totally normal. It's nothing against you. He still loves you. And if you need your space, that's also totally normal because it's so easy to feel offended when someone says that they don't wanna be around you for a minute.
Yeah.
But when you're married, you're around each other all the time. And it's a totally different thing than when you're dating, and when you're together, you're really together. When you're living together and you're married, you're with each other even when you're not with each other. So it's just really important to recognize when you each need a little bit of space. Number 5 is to take care of your looks.
I'm gonna let her finish before I give the rest of my thoughts there.
Again, this might be, I guess, sort of controversial, but I don't think it is.
This may be controversial, but I don't think it is. Gosh.
Because you're with this person and you know that they love you, to just not take care of yourself as much. And even for your own sake, that can start to feel a little bit bad. So for me, it's important to, shave my legs. Well, now I epilate, but when I shaved, shave. And to get my hair cut and to keep up with my makeup routine and just to keep yourself looking nice.
And keep up with my makeup routine. We're going to come back to that.
It means something to your husband and it'll mean something to yourself. And at least for me, I feel so much better when I just take a few minutes in the morning, do my hair, do my makeup, put on a nice outfit, and keep myself looking nice and put together. And I think that husbands really appreciate that too, because they don't want to ask you to put on makeup.
Oh, this is where we're going to lose it. I know the back half of this is going to be great.
And a lot of men don't like makeup. My husband actually doesn't, but they don't want to ask you to kind of shave your legs. I mean, if your legs aren't shaven, they're not going to say anything maybe, but they also would maybe like it for you to shave. So
maybe would like it for you to shave. Coming back to that too.
Keeping those things in mind and just trying to like look nice for your partner as if you're still dating is a really nice thing to do.
Okay, so that was step 5. No. Okay? All right, let's unpack a lot of that. I get it. From her perspective, men are visual. But it's not fair to your husband to imply that he will only continue to like you if you maintain a certain appearance. I'm not going to look like this at 70. The body decays. It's not going to look this great all the time. And if he's going to see me give birth, you can guarantee I'm not going to look that great when I give birth. I'm going to look as goblin as I can. No. And I get it. Her video is targeted towards women. It is targeted towards brides like me. I don't think it's fair to say, ladies, keep up your appearance. You don't want him looking at other women. You want to make sure you look good for your man and not imply a similar standard for men. You know, I don't think it's fair to say that only women should look put together, to wear makeup daily, which she points out she does that for herself. And I'll admit, I like the way my legs feel. So you know what? I shave them for myself. My fiance gets to enjoy those perks, but I do it for myself. And if he fell in love with me when we were in college and I wasn't wearing makeup every day, I was wearing yoga pants and a hoodie every single day, he loves me for something more than this. And this makes me very upset, because if the marriage fails for some reason, this is going to be the first thing women point to. I guarantee it. Bad advice. Obviously, shower. Keep up base hygiene. But don't worry about getting your hair cut. Don't base your appearance decisions on the opinions of other people, because you will eventually bring in more opinions and you will make yourself miserable. That was a really long rant on that one, but we're going to keep going.
Number 6 is it's okay to change for your partner. I know, how crazy is that to say? Now, let me be clear what that means. When you get married, your partner really wants the best for you.
Okay, so this point kind of fits in with the 5th one, that it's okay to change for your partner. I don't disagree. But I'm going to listen to the rest of her point on this, but I don't totally disagree.
And sometimes they may notice things about you that you could work on. And if they ask you to work on something, that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that they don't love you for who you are. It means that they love you for who you are and who you could be, the best version of yourself.
She kind of redeemed the point later in the discussion. I won't disagree that if you love and respect your partner, that if you notice issues in their life, it's okay for you to talk about it as adults. If you are prepared to talk to your partner about something that they need to fix, you better make sure you are at your best already, because it is not fair to be like, hey, I think you should do this better, when you have like a laundry list of things you need to fix about yourself. And I'm thankful it wasn't just appearance-based. That's where I was afraid it was going.
My 7th piece of advice is to make your house a home. Now, it is the nicest feeling in the world, at least for me, to go to Home Goods and TJ Maxx and home decor stores and just take my time to pick out things and decorate my house.
Oh, great.
And I think that my husband really appreciates that. Even if he doesn't really notice it at first, there's something about being in a home that is lived in by a woman.
Ew. I get it, but it's just, it reeks of the 1950s and I don't like it. It makes me so uncomfortable. It's acting like men are Neanderthals who don't know what home decor is. All right? Check out the glow up that the subreddit Male Living Spaces has undergone. I remember when that subreddit was like mocked because all of the pictures were a single recliner and a TV on the floor. No, men care about their living space. Men who live on their own care about their living space. They invest in it. It doesn't have to be just a woman's touch. Ew, ugh. And I put up an art. I have books. I know how to decorate. Abby.
There's a really feminine vibe that you bring to your home that you're...
It makes it worse. Really feminine vibe. I put on a dress. I can be feminine, but ew.
So take advantage of that. Make his house your house and make it a home that he's so happy to come home to because it's warm and loving and cozy. My 8th piece of advice is that you can still be friends with your single friends. I've heard from a lot of single...
That's also good advice. Stay friends. That applies when you're still dating too. So that's actually good advice. Okay.
They get really nervous when their friends get engaged and are getting married because they don't know if they're still going to be able to maintain that friendship. And taking the time to reach out to those single friends will really mean a lot to them and to you. Just because they're at a different point in their lives doesn't mean that you can't still stay friends. You can learn something from each other, which I think is so important. So just taking the time to show your single friends that things don't have to change. Of course, they're going to change a little bit because you're going to have to go cook your husband dinner or hang out with him, or you're going to be on date night or whatever it is. But your actual relationship with your girlfriends doesn't have to change, and you can still go out with them every once in a while on your own. You don't necessarily have to take your husband along and have her be a third wheel. You can still go out with your girlfriends, just the two of you, and that's totally fine. Number 9 is you should let your home be welcoming to your husband's friends. Now, your husband is probably going to want his friends to come over sometimes, and you don't want it to feel like he's not allowed to, because then he'll feel like he has to leave his home to have his male friendships. And I think it's a really nice thing for a man to be able to bring home his friends, for you to be a part of that. My husband is so wonderful about this.
Yeah, I think this is actually a really good piece of advice as well. Again, because it's his house too. He lives there. And if, your future kids are allowed to bring their friends over, your husband is allowed to bring his friends over, you're allowed to bring your friends over. There shouldn't even be a question of allowed. It's... I don't know, but I do think it's important that, his friendships are valued as much as yours. Yeah, fine.
He actually invites me to be included in board game nights or video games or whatever it is so that I can participate. But there are times where I don't want to participate, and that's totally fine. And I don't mind going in the other room and reading a book, and he can hang out with his guy friends. But I want him to feel like our home is really our home, so he can bring his friends and I can bring my friends. And both of us feel like it's totally welcoming space for both of us, and not a place where you're not allowed to bring home people that you enjoy their company and friends that you want to play cards with and stuff like that. Number 10, and my last piece of advice, is that it's totally normal to argue. Just make sure that your arguments are for a purpose. Don't argue with each other and start getting on each other's case and criticizing each other about who you are and just yelling for no reason.
Well, duh, don't do that.
Arguments should always have a purpose, and they should always be used to help your relationship grow and to come to a resolution. Don't just fight to fight, and never say something that you can't take back. So always be very mindful in an argument not to say something in the heat of the moment that your partner can't unhear. The worst arguments are the arguments where you are just tearing down each other. That's never useful, and I don't think that that is a good idea in marriage. But if you have to disagree about a big topic, that's normal and okay. And it's also normal to disagree about something little, as long as you guys are respectful during that disagreement. What are your guys' pieces of advice from being married, from dating, just anything that has to do with relationships and stuff like that? I'd really love to hear. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my blog and my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Bye, Abby. Jeez, okay. So, rating Rating Abby's pieces of advice, I believe there were probably 3 pieces of advice that I did genuinely think were useful and valid, so I will give that a 3 out of 10. In general, I think a lot of her advice is just basic things. She did ask for my advice. Oh my gosh, Abby, I'm so flattered. I've only been engaged for like 2 weeks. But seriously, number 1, communicate. My fiance and I have spent probably 40% of our relationship long distance. That means we have talked through literally everything, and we are super good at talking about things. We know that all problems are not us against each other. It's usually us together against a problem. Build that foundation. Talk to that foundation. Number 2, it's okay if your interests don't line up. We're kind of going through right now, because we've spent enough time apart, that our interests are kind of diverging. You know, we met through mutual interests, but they're kind of diverging, and that's okay. Let your interests diverge. Be fully independent people where your marriage unites you. That's totally fine. Number 3, it is your house collectively. Share the responsibility. I don't care if you're going for that housewife thing, but in this day and age, a lot of people can't afford to be a one breadwinner household. Both be adults, be responsible, share the responsibilities, and make your house your home. It is not the sole responsibility of either party, I don't think. Her definition of marriage is probably different from what mine is, but I grew up probably in a very different house compared to her. You know, she is from a very wealthy family in California, so her upbringing is probably very different from mine. I did have a stay-at-home mom. My dad did work 9 to 5, but they shared the responsibilities of the house. I don't know, I keep getting this vibe that her picture of what marriage is like at least 50 years old, you know, and she thinks it's being progressive and forward by saying you can still hang out with your single friends. So much of this, I think, inherently rubs me the wrong way, because she's coming at it from this place where she wants to be like your older sister that you can come to for advice, but she just comes across as very judgmental. I haven't even been married, and I already feel like she doesn't like the choices I'm gonna make, you know? Obviously, put in effort, but put in effort in the right places. You getting dolled up isn't going to fix any problems your relationship would have. You making the house nice for him to come home to won't fix those issues. I'm a little disappointed that she didn't get deeper, that like this is all she's learned and this is all she wants to pass on. Ugh. If she's happy in her relationship, she's happy in her relationship, but I think if I followed her instructions to the letter, I don't think I would be. I think the advice she gives here honestly introduces more things to freak out about, and I'm not about that life at all. I cannot abide by her definition of being a wife, I don't think. Maybe I'll come up with better advice down the road, or for goodness sakes, talk to someone who's not Ben Shapiro's sister. I don't have an outro for this because I don't typically do videos like this, but thank you so much for experiencing this with me. Hope you're having a lovely afternoon. Bye.